Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Always have to say that because, we get into the week and we get in the middle and it's like, wow, how is the week going this fast? So I hope wherever you are in the world, it's been a good week. I know, for most of us, it's a busy week and as our days are. And I'm so honored and grateful that you would take the time to spend to have a conversation that's maybe a little different than what you're used to having in your day. But as always, in our time together, it's very organic, it's very spirit led. And if you land here, just know that you are absolutely where you're supposed to be because your animal has led you here, your heart has led you here, and it's a discovery for what wants to come up. So I'd love to hear where you are coming in from as you land. Say hello, everybody, to see you. And we all it's like we're gathering together, like, hey, how are you? It's like what the animals do. At the sanctuary where I would take them out to day play. It's like a little school bus, and I take some this way and some that way. At the end of the day, when they all came back in, it was so funny because they would have had their different experiences right in the day, and they'd come back and say, hey, did you see that deer? What happened in your day? And you could just see them catching up. So I feel like that's what we do when we meet. And for some reason, it just seems like I haven't seen you forever. So I'm really glad you're here, and just really appreciate all your thoughts in your heart and your comments. And it's good to see you, Connie. And hi, Greg. Really good to see you. Hope all is well with you. And Deanna, we all have landed here today and all are listening. That's one of my favorite things to talk about is the quality of listening. And if you'll notice while you're with me for this time today, notice the quality of your listening. Like, drop in and see where you're listening from. Are you listening from your mind? Are you listening from your heart? And then what's the difference? Can you tell? Marge, it's good to see you. And Claire, happy Wednesday. It's always a blessing to be here. It's a blessing for me as well. It really is. And some of you I haven't seen in a long time. Some of you I'm just now meeting. It's all good because at the end of the day, we kind of are brought together, from the animals and with the animals. They've got to get us into they're little networkers. They've got to get us to the place where we can open up these really important conversations. Susan, it's good to see you on a healing journey, and my cat Jay has brought me here. I love that. Yes, they really do. They bring us together, and the conversations we have on these lives are more maybe important than you even realize as we open up the space for deeper thoughts, greater insights, more understanding, and healing. And Barbara, hi, Tammy and friends. We're all friends here, are we not? So, today's topic about soul lessons is something that I think is super important to have at this particular time in our lives, because we've evolved from, I'd say, years and years and years and years ago, where people just said, oh, they're just a pet, or they're an animal, and they didn't understand the depth to which these animals come into our lives and the reasons they come into our lives. And it's very specific. It's we can get similar themes, but ultimately it's very specific to our life journey. So what if your pet didn't come for you, but or to you, but came for you? And then what would that be about? Barbara says, I'm from Switzerland and love to listen to you. I'm so glad you're here. And so I'd love to hear, as we talk about this, your thoughts on things, because when you share your thoughts, all of you, we expand our understanding. So, they're not just a pet. I think we can all agree on that. And this relationship we have with our animals is profoundly important, because in a world that struggles right now, especially with love and showing that, our animals cut right to our hearts, right? We're not defended with our animals. Even the gruffest of people, they can reach right through. And so you end up feeling rather than thinking with an animal. And Claire says, I think it's not until they transition that we think of the soul lessons, or that it's a thing. That's very, very true. I'm kind of here to break that mold in what I teach, and what I'm here to do in the world is to let's awaken really while they're here, to really catch the depth of what this exchange is really about. And it can really enrich the relationship you have with your current pet, and of course with one that has been in your life. You might say, oh, I didn't see it until it was, we had parted ways. But even that, there's no wrong piece to the timing. But I think with the work we all do together with this conversation, uh, helps with all relationships, human and animal. So it's not just we're talking animals, we're really talking all relationships. They're mirror to our emotions, they're guides, they're soul companions on our path. And number one, every relationship is an animal relationship is a soul contract. No question about it. Always. Barbara says, I just lost my beloved dog on April the 6th. Oh, I'm so sorry. That is so recent. I'm still grieving him and miss him. Oh, 100%. But I know he's fine, and the soul never dies, as well as the love never dies. You're going to hear it from me time and time again. That's very well articulated, by the way, Barbara, is once connected, always connected. I will say that and say that. You will hear me repeat that, because you can't break the connection. And if you think you can, I want you to try to see that that's gone. It's not possible. Once we're connected, we're always connected on some level. And so you don't have to worry about losing them, even though it can certainly feel that way when they pass and we feel so cut off. And I've gone through that as well myself, and have moved through the pieces, human and animal, of losses, to really understand that, we choose each other in relationships. Your pet chose you, you chose them long before you even met. It's not random. They're in your life for a reason. And, those contracts we have, they're designed for growth, healing, and awakening. And those are things that, back in the day, 20 years ago, you certainly didn't hear that about animals, right? They were just, animals when people were growing up. And I'm loving as everybody's still jumping in here. Jolene and Gunner, love it. Greg says, and I'm sure, Greg, you're referring to Lucy. I know that to be true. I did not realize the profound effect and lessons that Lucy taught me until she passed. And that's okay, because once you really see it, it's like you can't unsee that piece. And because you can't unsee it, you've expanded and you've grown, and you'll never go back to kind of maybe a more limited way of looking at things. And so, our pets, we hear, are mirrors for our soul. It's the total truth. They reflect our unhealed wounds, our deepest joys, and our hidden strengths. And I don't know that many people think about it that way. Hi, Jill. Jill says, I just lost my boxer Logger. I just lost him this Sunday. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. From cancer in the spleen that ruptured. I had to make that awful choice. I miss him so much. He was such a sweet, gentle soul. Well, thank you for being here. And I know that that grief is very raw and very, um, I'm feeling just very palpable right now. So the fact that you joined us, we can hold that space with you. And when you say I had to make that awful choice, what I'm hearing and feeling is no, 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 no. No, it wasn't an awful choice. You actually gave the greatest gift you could have given, because animals actually, they don't want a lot of intervention. They don't want to live in bodies that don't function anymore. And you actually, it was okay, what I'm hearing is it was a sacred contract the two of you had. So you actually stepped forward and did the best you could, and he is so grateful for that. So no guilt on that piece, even though I know it was really, really hard. And I'm wondering, as we're talking with any of you, have you ever felt with any of your pets that they've highlighted like things that you've buried, maybe some emotions that you hadn't felt in a long time, that because of your relationship with them, that kicks up? Or have they helped you soften in areas that maybe you got a little hard? Maybe your heart got guarded, and here this animal came in and cracked it wide open. And of course, when they pass, our hearts break wide open again. And my mentor in Mount Shasta for many, many years always told me, when our hearts are broken in 1,000 pieces, they just expand even more. They have the capacity to love even more. So Claire says it feels like not only a soul connection with our pets, but a soul opening for us. Yes, yes. All of these pieces, especially the hard pieces, are openings. They're portals for growth. And soul growth is not easy, right? It's not like we're going to knock on that door and say, yeah, bring more of that, please. A lot of times it catches us unaware. And the more impactful and big, the more the opportunity for opening is. And our animals are masters at guiding us through that process of soul growth and journey. And Claire says the one profound lesson from Bronnie, she said, you never knew you could love this much. How many of you feel that with your pet, with your beloved companion, that you loved even beyond the capacity that you thought you had? Julie, she said, thank you for that insight. I still struggle with the guilt of the decision to put my boxer down. What word would I use? What I'm feeling is, so as I stumble over my words, because the animals are like coming in really fast, is they want you to know that you don't have to feel any guilt at all, because they are part of that. And I can say that from direct experience. The animals have taught me this. I have had several very direct teachings in this area that started with a dog named Sasha, who clearly told me that they have a say in it too. And from that point on, I had many come in and say that even if they are, you're at the vet, they on a soul level are aware and are in agreement. This is a soul agreement. So, we tend to take on like it's all our decision. No. It's a, you don't want to say like a group decision, but every character in the play is playing a role. So Susan says, I keep a wall up all the time, but Jay just said, nope, and just walked right in. I love that. So I think the challenge, Susan, and maybe not challenge, I'll rephrase that. I think the invitation that you have is if your wall came down even for a little bit of time, and you spent a little time in that open-hearted area, that had to feel better than closing it up again. And so the invitation is, don't close up shop. Keep that opening, happening. Keep the vulnerability of having an open heart, because that's what the animals are here to teach us, among many things. We got a lot to learn. So there's a lot of teachings, and for each of us, they definitely come into our lives at the right time, and that is soul timing. And I will say that for any relationship you have in your life, human or animal, whatever it is. And maybe it's a job relationship that came in. So if we think of relationship in a broader sense, then take a look. When did that come into my life? When did my pet come into my life? What was going on? And Susan, at this point, with Jay being gone, and some of the others of you who have commented, what is going on in your life right now? What is the transition you are all in individually? What's the next step in your journey? And sometimes, usually we don't know to look at that piece because it can seem so random and just like an event that we weren't prepared for or we didn't want. But if we back up, and this is what part of the animals are here to teach, to back up and to see the broader picture of, wait a minute, I can see how they came in. Get curious, even in your grief, get curious about, why did they leave now? What soul contract has been completed? What have we come to know together? Have we grown? Did your pet come in to your life during a time of crisis? A transition of some sort, or a transformation. And every single person I talk to, there's not ever been one that they can't track that piece once we back up and get a little curious about it, as opposed to judging it as wrong. So I'm curious for you all, what are some of the lessons you've learned with your animals? Obviously we all need help with the love piece. Like, I don't think without the animals, we would know what it is like to feel love unconditionally. That unconditional presence without judgment, love without conditions. Where would we get it except from the animals? And if that is the main one thing we do get, I want to ask you, was it all worth it? Was it all worth it? Even, all the journey you had, and even the last moments that you look back on and maybe judge as having happened in a wrong way. And trust me, whatever I teach, I've had direct experience. So I know these pieces, and the animals have literally shown me every which way that things can happen, and what I've learned in the hidden pieces in me that maybe I needed to understand would come out in their passings, in some of the things that happened that I didn't understand. So it's personal growth for us. Claire said she learned to speak up for myself from Jeff. That's great. I love that. And Logger taught me to love, says Jill, to laugh and to see joy in the simple things. So are you, and I know this it's recent, are you still doing that? And in what way are you doing that? Hi, Sheila. Our beagle, Vino, love the name, helped my husband through his lymphoma treatment. Then a few years later, Vino passed from lymphoma. I can't say it. I don't know what my problem is. Lymphoma at 7 years old. I feel that was her purpose, to be a comfort to him. What a soul paralleling journey, right? What a powerful healer Vino was. Incredible. And I love that you're able to kind of look at it now and see the pieces that were matching. Deanna says, all the animals have taught me so much. Even what seemed like a small thing had huge impact. We have to pay attention, right? And that's what the animals teach, this piece of, don't miss a moment. They every moment they are present for. And that's the other thing they teach us, for goodness sake, how to be present. And I want to say something to you about that and about the now. Hint, the now is always here. We think we I got to be more present. I'm not present. Well, presence doesn't go anywhere. The now is always here. So right now, everybody, are you present? Check in. How do you know? What does it feel like? And then try to get rid of the present. Try to get rid of it. Can you? It's just like the connection. You can't get rid of it. It's always present. Presence is always here. Sort of like the blue sky. You'll have the clouds and the clouds will part. That blue sky always was there. So I just want you to think about that as you go through your week. Connie says, absolutely, especially due to the continuum. Love never dies. Archie and I are still very much together. When we can honor that essence of a connection, your relationship with them, even after they've passed, deepens even more. It's this deeper layer that was always there, but we had their bodies, so we get kind of used to that. And Susan says, Jay came to help me live with a medical condition. He has left to send me on a healing journey and had whacked me over my head to give me the message, a divine gift. I hope, and I'm going to read some more, I hope you're all writing this down, because you're doing some serious soul work and personal growth. And you need to, I'd love for you to keep a journal of your growth. Barbara said, I did not think I could love my dog Felice so much. Now my heart is wide open. And to a later point, I can imagine to give another dear soul a good home. Many people try to talk me out of that. But, go by what your heart is telling you to do. And gifts are meant to be shared. And that gift of your heart definitely is meant to be shared. And Barbara says, I have to listen to my heart. Jill says, I think I'm grieving so deeply. I'm trying not to ignore my other two dogs, Sophie and Ella. And, here's what I would do. I get that piece where we're knee deep in that, and it takes us away from kind of daily life, right? We're so insulated in our grief that I would just explain to them, hey, doing the best I can. I really appreciate your presence. Really appreciate you being here. And help me remember who I am, to be more present in my grief and to help me through it. Ask for their help. Definitely ask for their help, because they can help through this. So I would journal. I would in a grief journey. It's super helpful every day to kind of write down where you are and get it out of your kind of head. And it's like talking, to yourself and opening up in an even deeper way. And so all of these soul pieces are so very important for, our individual journeys. And each of you has had these deeply personal things. And I have someone today that I'd like for you to meet, and she's graciously agreed to come on. And she is, second guessing and grieving and wondering, what soul lesson was this about, and did I miss it? So if any of you have ever thought, did I miss what they came here to teach me? Let's unpack that. But I'd like to welcome Kimberly and just say hello to Kimberly.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello, Tami.
It's nice to see you. And I'm so honored that you were wanting to come on and just share with what you're going through. And I know when you did reach out, it was even before, I guess, this particular theme had been released, so you were tracking that, and Sebastian, her dog, had led her here of, I think I missed the soul lesson, and that's distressing to you. So if you don't mind, when you first reached out, what were you thinking? Like, why do you think you missed a soul lesson? Can you give us a little backstory?
Yes, I'll do my best. I don't know exactly why. Well, I think my dog passed away on February 24th from liver cancer at 13 and a half years old. But when I got Sebastian, why I think I missed his soul lesson is because I got him almost immediately after the loss of my heart and soul dog, Caesar, who passed from a tumor on his spine in 2012. I didn't wait. I was in so much pain, and to the point where I couldn't even breathe. I felt the grief was just nothing I've ever experienced before with humans who passed.
And I'll bet a lot of the people watching have, that's a really, really good description. Have any of y'all felt that, like where you can't breathe?
Yeah.
And doesn't your heart like literally hurt?
It's like that.
Yeah.
The world is not as bright, not as not as comforting. I
Mhm.
decided I felt like I immediately needed to fill that void. And so I didn't wait hardly at all. And my goal was just to find the first puppy that I was hoping to find another Caesar because he was my soul animal. Of course, I knew at the time I wasn't going to ever find that maybe, but that was my goal. I was just like, I'm in so much pain. I need something to help fill this void. So Sebastian just happened to be the first puppy that I laid eyes on. And that's how I met Sebastian right after Caesar's death in 2012. And so
How much time would you say elapsed? Like, give
oh
us
God,
was it
not
2 weeks, 5 days?
2 weeks,
Well, okay.
not long at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the sad thing is it caused us to bond much slower. I still bonded with him, but it was difficult because I was constantly comparing the two, Sebastian and Caesar. Even if I didn't want to, it was just like always in my head. So that was hard. And he was so different. They were so opposite in so many ways. Sorry, but
That's all right. It's a thing here, so it's fine.
they're so opposite. They're like night and day, night and day. So my goal of finding another similar dog to Caesar, that wasn't even possible. Anyways, but in my mind, that's what I was kind of trying to do to
Mm-hmm.
fill that void.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, a couple things here. Um, you know, I see so many ways, and I've experienced so many ways animals come into our lives, and it can look like we've made an error in, like you're saying, I see where I went wrong. I got him too soon. I wasn't over it. And what I was hearing as you were saying that, and that's why I was like, was it like, what was it? And I was feeling about 2 weeks, is Sebastian actually came into your life to help you discern those pieces. Without his presence there, you wouldn't work like have the contrast for you to actually even be able to compare it against. So that was part of, I guess, the hidden gift in his coming. Even though you can say, well, I got him too soon, what it also did is it caused you to evaluate where you were emotionally by the contrast of him being there. And then you noticed when you said the bond was difficult, well, if he hadn't been there, you wouldn't have understood what that bond was exactly. So nothing was amiss here, even though the mind looks like, well, you shouldn't have done it that soon. So I just wanted to say that to you. And if you can, if we can get a photo of Sebastian up, I think that would help everybody so we can all relate to Sebastian.
That was
And that was okay. So what was this taken like
The
When
very
was
first
it?
day I picked him up. The very first day.
What made you pick him?
He was the first one I came in contact with.
How interesting. I mean, even that can look like, oh, I made a mistake. No, if we start backtracking, I would say the way an animal comes into your life, whether you go to the pet store, whether you buy from a breeder, whether you go to the shelter, whether they run in front of you, that's not as important. It really isn't. The animals come to us in whatever way and the platform that they can get to us in. So, all right. So he was the first one, and he is that the day he came home with you. And what were your feelings when you like met him?
To be honest, at first he was so different. Caesar was a white and tan English Cocker Spaniel, and Sebastian's an American Cocker Spaniel, black, white, and tan. He was so different in so many ways. Caesar was stuck to my side pretty much. He had severe anxiety disorder. He always wanted to be with me. He was slept with me in my bed. He was a cuddler, super cuddler. Cuddling dog. And Sebastian is so much more independent, wasn't very cuddly. And at first that really bothered me. I didn't want it to bother me, but it did. Eventually our bond did grow much stronger, but I just feel like it took a lot longer because of the constant comparison that I was doing. And I didn't think that was very fair to Sebastian or Caesar, really.
Well, but I think it was a process you had to go through. Yeah, I mean, you literally had to take those steps in order to see the difference and to see where you were. And I don't get the sense from Sebastian. I get the sense that he was actually pleased that he could help you identify these pieces. And that's something that we wouldn't necessarily see. How did you know that the bond developed? Like at what point did you feel that shift a little bit?
It took a few years, I think. I mean, I always loved him, but it took a long time. It took a really long
For you to fully open your heart again?
I think I wasn't ready when I got
Right. Yeah,
to open my heart
absolutely.
completely.
Yeah, but it took, and this is a great point, and everybody watching, how many of us are a little scared to love again? How many of us get really hurt and we're just a little cautious on that piece, and we put up, even unintentionally, a heart wall to protect because it's so painful? Or, maybe you've experienced a loss and, you're like, I'll never, ever go through that again. Right. So there's no right or wrong. It's just where we are, in the process of our own growth. So he came in a very strong healing way to show you the areas that maybe were unprocessed wounds, like your emotions, where you hadn't worked through them.
Right.
But because you have this little puppy, you have to show up, and maybe not all of you can show up, but at least part of you did. At what point, though, did you notice that the bond was shifting a little bit? And even if it was 2 or 3 years down the road, that's
probably at least a couple of years.
Mhm.
I don't
But what told you
what
that it
told me
was? What
that.
told you? Yeah.
Well, what told me that was Sebastian is I said he wasn't as cuddly and he was more independent. But whenever I noticed, whenever I needed any kind of comfort, if I was having a bad day, he would just pop up there beside me and sit by me every single time. And just petting him and just being close to him just would help calm my nerves. Just stroking this fur would help calm my nerves. And I started to appreciate that love he was giving me back to me.
He said he was steady. He's using the word steady. And he also says that he noticed when you needed that. Um, and it was sort of like this quiet piece of, I'm here. He didn't push that on you, right?
No.
Right. Yeah. He just, would he just kind of know that you needed it?
Yes. I think
Mm-hmm.
that I think he knew. I really do, because
Mm-hmm.
he would just pop up beside me no matter where I was every single time, and offered that love that I was desperately needing.
Mm-hmm.
There he is, his big soulful eyes, his big eyes. I mean, he would always just be sitting next to me and giving me the love that I desperately needed and desperately wanted. So eventually
Do
I became closer with him, but it did take quite a bit longer. I did love him from the beginning, but it took quite a bit longer to form that bond because of how I did things so quickly after Caesar
Mhm.
passed.
Right. And so I think that was part of your journey. He's totally aware. He knew when he came into your life that part of his role in your life was to help you walk this piece of this healing journey and this realization. And there's also a forgiveness piece here. So, was there some guilt around Caesar's passing?
No, Caesar passed very unexpectedly and from a tumor on his spine. So
Hmm.
I didn't see it coming at all. And I didn't see Sebastian's passing coming at all either. They were both very unexpected. I thought I wasn't going to lose two of them to cancer, but I did.
So let's back this trolley up a minute. I'd like to just dive into I didn't see it coming. Um, Do you feel like if you had seen it coming, you could have done something?
Oh God, yes. With Caesar, I had no idea until he started exhibiting problems lifting his leg to go to the restroom. Then I thought,
Mm.
okay, well, that's kind of weird. And I took him in, and then shortly after they found out about he had a cancerous tumor on his spine, but there was nothing to do at that point. They told me basically they couldn't save him. So it was very traumatic, yes. And then Caesar
Absolutely.
been that way, similar to liver
Yeah.
cancer.
So I'm so appreciative of the pieces you're bringing up that I know all of us here have felt or said, I should have seen it coming. And what the animals have taught me is spirit, and what spirits taught me is we get shown what we need to see when we see it. Now, that may sound kind of simple, but it's like if you squint to see something before it's ready to be seen, and we don't have control over all those pieces. Uh, we can't see it, but it's when it gets closer and sometimes like right in our faces that we're like, wait a minute, I could have done something, but you weren't. Here's the deal: you weren't shown. And I could go into tons of stories about my own journey with that piece. Like I was supposed to see what's wrong with me. I have failed, and that's that. When I said, was there a guilt piece, I was hearing she needs to forgive herself. And that's why I was like, yeah, there's some forgiveness piece here that was not you. If you were meant to have stepped into that soul path to prevent anything, I can promise you, you would have. Now I want all of you that you're thinking while we're sitting here together, um, think about your life, and when you're clear, you know what to do. When we're clear, we do it, right? But it's when we're unclear that we think we should have been clear, and we go into this like swirly place where it's just circular. So what I'm feeling strongly from Caesar and Sebastian, and Caesar says he actually sent Sebastian. You think you made a too fast of move. What I'm hearing from Caesar is this: Sebastian couldn't come soon enough. So different perspective from the animals, right? From what we go into, and the soul lessons that you needed to really deeply get is when you said, I really needed that love, is extending that to yourself as well in all the places. And I mean, all of us could do that, right? We all need a little bit more of that, especially when we have situations. So you've been blaming yourself for things that you really weren't mistakes. They were all part of the guided plan. And, for you to get Sebastian, it was actually perfect timing, even though it didn't look like that to you. So he came, he gave you love, he's a healer. And you're a healer, by the way. So, and when we're healers, not that all of us don't have this aspect, but we've got to work on our own healing, and take a look at what was the legacy? What gifts did he leave you with that you now carry forth? And the same thing for Sebastian. He says, God, he says you didn't fail the test. He said, if there is a test of what is your soul lesson, he says you haven't failed the test. So going back to the gifts piece, and we can certainly unpack this as time permits, but for the sake of time with Sebastian, what gifts did he share while he was with you? Whether he left suddenly or you had a long illness or whatever, we don't get to either choose on how another soul goes, by the way. We think we do. They're part of that soul passing as well. And it's when you're complete, whether you think you're complete or not, and you're ready for the next chapter, even though your heart's like, I wasn't ready, like not ready, and I disagree with it. So what are the gifts?
Unconditional love, even when I couldn't offer it to him all the time. He always gave it to me.
He was filling you up, he said. Did you feel filled up?
Sometimes, a lot of the time with Sebastian, but it took a while for me to feel that way.
And that's okay. But can you go back into the experience of what is being filled up? What does that feel like? Do you still have access to that?
I think I'm more focused on how he's left me. How he left me
exactly. And again, a very good point. The journey shifted, and then we get hyper focused on the way it ended. Right. And the animals, boy, this is like the animals are here teaching some big, big lessons today. We're not meant, literally, we are not meant to focus on how they left, because we miss the journey.
Okay.
We miss the gifts they gave. They're like, really, we're going to sum their whole life up in one last minute, as opposed to taking a look at, well, wait a minute, while they were here, they gave me this, they gave me that. And he's wanting to redirect you, because both Caesar and Sebastian want you to broaden your experience of wait a minute, I do have a whole lot of things that I have now because of them, that these soul lessons are. I now have experienced unconditional love. I know what that feels like. Have you been able to give it to others?
My fiance got 2 Maine Coons. They happened to be from a friend who had an unexpected litter of them. And so they asked if we wanted 2 sisters that were bonded. And this was about a month before Sebastian was gone. I thought he'd be around. I didn't know the cancer diagnosis then.
Sure.
When I'm having trouble bonding with the 2 cats, I feel guilty bonding with the 2 cats. Well, maybe I just feel like I don't want to go through this again.
Or all of the above, right? All of it mixed in together. Brenda said, I'm learning this myself. There's no coincidence. And I don't know if we have a photo of the cats. I think we do.
Yeah, they just want love.
Well, and they're here to give love too, and in a different way as well. And so, you're up against this choice point now. Here I go again.
Right.
Here I go again. I don't know if it's safe to love again because, then my heart gets broken and I'm not sure I'm not worn out from that. And yet here they came, unbeknownst to you that, and again, let's point back to, I didn't see it coming. I didn't know. And I want you to, in your life, carry this forward of, I'm not always going to know because I'll see it when I'm meant to see it. And that's the truth, especially with animals. You're going to see it when it's time, because a lot of times we are not meant to interrupt that soul's path. And that my dog Sasha told me that. Had I known what was going to happen and unfold with Sasha, do you not think I would have and I haven't even told you the backstory on that one, but I'll write about it. I'd have totally I'd have totally thrown myself in the middle of that. I would have stopped it. It was like, that is not on the approved list of how you pass. End of story.
Right.
But I wasn't given that insight. And it was a great teaching point for me. And so also the way they come in, these two slid in. And I find it interesting that you use the word bonded pair.
Yeah.
What have we been talking about the whole time together is bonding. And what does that really mean for you, right? For all of you watching, how do you know when you're bonded? What is it that tells you that you've opened up? And maybe if we open up, we get a little scared, like, oh, I didn't mean to open. So we close it right back again, right? Do you feel like, how would you describe their presence? I know what you say they need, but the cats that they slid in, it's almost like they passed each other,
Right.
They slid in and Sebastian slid out.
Exactly.
That is also a signature soul move on animals. Too many times I've seen that where one leaves and one comes in. And it's never a mistake. So give us a quick kind of feel for them. And what are their names?
Elodie and Alice.
Say it again.
Elodie and Alice. E-L-O-D.
Oh, okay.
And Alice. Oh, well, I'm used to having dogs, so that right there is a little different for me.
Learning curve.
Yeah, and they're only 11 months old, and they're jumping on everything, as high as possible in the house. I'm just used to my Sebastian, who's keeps quiet and well-mannered, but they're sweet as can be, and all they really want is love from me, and attention. So I'm trying to work on. I've been doing a lot of grief work, but I've been trying to kind of be able to start preparing myself to open my heart for them too. But it's very hard.
I love that you're so aware. A lot of people aren't as aware of their own feelings, and so what I'm getting the sense from them is they're here to keep you awake. They're here to not let you go back to sleep. Kind of like shock therapy, where they're jumping everywhere and they're like little fun chaos makers. Laurie says, and it's good to see you, Laurie. Maine Coons are very much the personality of a dog. And that's true. I had forgotten that. Thank you for pointing that out. So again, animals come in all different forms. People come in all different forms, right? And how interesting that they're a bonded pair, and you see that they are completely open to each other, right?
Right. They're best friends.
And they're examples. They're modeling to you what it is your heart actually, and everybody watching, please join in here. From your intuition, your heart really is wanting to bond.
Yeah. I just don't know how right now. I'm having trouble trusting I'm having trouble opening up my heart, like we mentioned earlier. I don't know why. They're precious, but I'm still having trouble letting them in.
Well, would you say you'll forever be that
No,
way, or do you see it as something that's
I
changing?
think I think I see it changing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the soul contract, that animals come in. They understand that life evolves and they evolve and they grow. And so part of their journey with you is to help you understand yourself more and not beat yourself up for where you are. They're like, own where you are and it's okay. And they're totally fine. I don't get the sense they're going to let up on you, though. I think they're here to, like, you know, kind of almost little joy guides.
Right.
And Brenda
They
says
offer
maybe
love
your
to me
kids.
already. They're so, especially Elodie, the brown one, and
Uh-huh.
just will come up and sit by me and almost sit on top of me at certain times when I really need it. Um, so they're already
And that,
fine.
yeah, yeah, and that's okay. Here's what I would do with that, because we don't want to put a scorecard or an end result on anything. I would just totally bring myself. Remember that present moment I talked about? It's a really good way to notice if you're present when that, when she comes and she sits on you and you just need it. Just stop. Don't try to evaluate it. Just notice what you're feeling. That's it. It doesn't matter if you didn't feel that before. It doesn't matter if you're not going to feel that 10 minutes from now. All that matters is that you're getting in touch with, what am I feeling? What's my heart feeling now? What's my heart feeling right now? And so I want to ask you all that question. You know, you're all guests as well here, and we're all sharing this experience. What is your heart? Let's tap in for a moment. What is your heart feeling right now? And what would you say? Would you say, I'm going to give you some prompts. Do you feel a calmness? Is there a warmth? How would you describe, is there an openness with you all now? What would you say you're feeling? I'd love to hear any of you. And Kimberly, what would you say your heart is feeling right now? Would you say, is your heart listening to this conversation, kind of like,
I
hmm,
believe my heart.
hmm,
I'm, I know I want to bond with them
mm-hmm,
better than what I've already. I want to improve the bond with them. I know that, but um, my heart's open for that. I'm trying to get ready for open up my heart again.
well, again, I want you to get in the present moment and just be where you are. And Nick is saying, and this is a great thing to say, my heart is opening. So it doesn't give it like a destination. Like, we're not going to wake up and say, oh, my heart is open and it will stay open forever in my life. No, you're going to have bumps and nicks and bruises, and your heart's going to need, like, your heart needs cuddles. Right? You want those cuddles. They're giving you the cuddles that your heart is longing for. Oh, Julie, that's beautiful. Julie says, I don't know why, but I feel contentment. Mm. Um, oh, and Marge said those two are looking to lovingly at you. So just be in maybe the position of, am I receiving in this moment? Rather than, am I bonding? You know, am I receiving? And Brenda says, opening for sure. Ollie has mom all to himself. Oh, Susan, honestly, emptiness. Jay has left me empty. It will change, but for now. And I think that's an honest assessment of where you are. And I think that's, you're not saying that's forever. And you're saying, this is where I am right now. And that's okay. That's okay. Claire says she's feeling grateful. Do you feel, Kimberly, like is there, from the time we started, and the time goes so fast, do you feel like, is in degrees, is it a little calmer? Do you feel
Yes.
just slightly calmer? Mm-hmm. 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 Your heart is so big. You came in to love. That's why it is so incredibly painful. when you don't feel like you're like wide open. And that's that heart hurt because it's not natural to you. The you that you are is very loving, very giving, naturally nurturing. But right for now, the nurturing and all the animals know this. The cats know this. You need the nurturing now. Like you need the cozy blanket and the hot cup of tea. You need that, right? And so that's what they're trying to give you. And Laurie says, I think it takes time to fall in love with the new ones. They will win you over. I love that. I love that. And Jill says she feels guilty. She doesn't feel as bonded either. I love them, but Logger and I had a special connection for which you have to honor. Everybody and all the relationships we have with each other, they're all different, right? We all come to teach each other different things. And some people, even you're closer to, just look at friends in a class, you're going to be closer to some than others. And, we can feel connected to everybody, but maybe the degree of the connection is a little different. I think you've had tremendously big teachers in your life, all revolving on this soul lesson of connection and what does that really mean? What level of connection do I really want to have in this lifetime? Do I want to have the surface connection? Do I really want that deep soul bond? We get to choose, right? And I think telling the cats, thank you so much for being patient with me when I am not patient with myself, right? Thank you for showing me love when I just need it the most. I'm soaking it up. I'm open to receive. And as Nick so simply and eloquently put it, my heart is healing. My heart is healing. Those are the soul lessons I think we're all learning at all times. We can't control the pieces of another's journey. We're just part of it. I would encourage you for Caesar, for Sebastian, for the cats, I would write it out even, or write them a letter and say, thank you so much for this part of the journey. This is what I learned from it. Because you didn't miss a soul lesson, ma'am. You did not. So, and this isn't a graded quiz at the end of the life. This is a deepening that you're having, as we all are, where hearts are always, healing. And so, as we round up our time, I do want to share that, I'm offering a course, and there's the scan code right up there. It's starting May 7th. So we're rounding in on the time that we're due. It's 6 sessions. We've got 6 people, and it is truly life-changing. If you feel, nudged to do so, I would be honored for you to be here. And, if you sign up, I will, offer you a 30-minute discovery call. Let's talk about what you want to learn, how, where you want to deepen, talk about your animals. And, the spots are limited, but I do that deliberately because I love working with you one-on-one, just like here on these, lives. I love working with you, and I appreciate everybody's willingness to come here with an open heart. And we go places that, think about it. It's a Wednesday. I don't know what's been going on in your day, but we took time together and the animals guided us here. And so if you had one thing you'd want to say to all the animals, or to even just to one, Sebastian, what would you want them to know?
It's a hard one. Just grateful to have them in my life when I had them. Sorry it took so long to bond, but I'm grateful to have them because I called him my emotional support animal because anytime I was in a bad mood, he was always there. Yeah.
And that's what they are, right? All of them. They're always there for us. We are so lucky. We're so blessed. And we're all very grateful that you you joined us today, and very honored. And we loved meeting all your babies. And that teaching, we've covered some ground. So, let the healing go forward, everybody. Keep your hearts open. Be walking hearts, right? Don't guard them. It's okay. And the animals will continuously show us that. So with that, we are out of time, and I've enjoyed it. Thank you again, Kimberly. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And I look forward to our next time. I want to say is, let me look. I don't know, May 4th, May 3rd. Somebody will have to correct me. But let's always keep the conversations going. Thank you all. Have a great week. And let me hear from you. I'll see you next